Now, there is one giant mistake that I see in the content creation scene of Watcher of Realms, as well as any other video game out there, especially in the gacha sphere. So let's go ahead and talk about that. But before we do, let's go ahead and hear from Bear in his blue sweater. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this already, but as you can see, I'm wearing my Team Water sweater that was provided, and it's very hot in my room, so we're going to try and make this quick. What is Team Water? Well, I'm glad you asked. It is a social media campaign where we're partnering up with a charity called Water Aid with the goal of eventually raising $40 million to be able to provide clean water for 2 million people for 20 plus years. That's right, $1 can provide clean water for one person for an entire year, ladies and gentlemen. We may never truly know what kind of a struggle people have without access to things as simple as water, right? If you have ever had any sort of a power outage or anything like that where you've lost it for, whatever extended duration of time it might have been, that is going to be a small tip of the iceberg for what daily life would be like in areas where water is not easily accessible. So for things like washing hands, taking showers, cleaning food, any of that is extremely important in a day-to-day, in your day-to-day life, right? Enough said. This campaign is being participated in by large creators of all sizes, really, right? So it's fantastic that I got invited. We have people like Kai Cenat. Zach King is in there, dude perfect. There's so many people. We even have people like Hank Green, right? So there's a good chance that you've already seen this campaign on YouTube, especially. Now, that being said, I am going to leave a link down below if you want to get in on this initiative and donate. It's completely optional, of course. I'm not pressuring anybody. If you want to donate and help bring clean water to people in other parts of the world who may not be so lucky, definitely go ahead and make sure to follow that link. And then, of course, you can hop in my Discord and share it and talk about it as well if you'd like. But back to the video. So all that being said, what is the mistake that I see inside the content creation space? Well, that's going to be making essentially one video and then never talking about that particular subject again. And that's especially important when it comes to the hero that we're going to be discussing here today inside Watcher of Realms, which is Volka, the Nightmare Fighter, who everybody can get for free. And not only that, everybody can get A5 completely free, right? You get her from doing your quests, and then I believe clearing stage 160 of the Tide is how you get the final awakening for her, which is pretty nice. So she's probably going to be most people's first A5, unless you're very unfortunate like me and you happen to pull 6 abominations without ever even doing the fusion, right? Whole nother story. But that being said, if you come from something like Raid Shadow Legends or a lot of these other kind of gacha games, a lot of times the champions or the heroes that are introduced for free for players can be a little bit questionable, right? So even if we go ahead and take a look at the Supreme Arbiters, if we take a look at Init, people are kind of decided that he's not really the best option for things he does, right? There's other candidates that do what he does, but a little bit better. He's not doing much damage, right? He's just not that impressive, but Volka is very much the exception to that. She is 100% a must build for every single player inside Watcher of Realms, regardless of if you spend money, if you're free to play, if you're early game or late game. If you have Volka, you build Volka. And look at her reviews. She's rated pretty highly everywhere inside the game. We are, of course, going to be giving her reviews as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at her kit. Apparently, I have to plug in my headset. I just got an alert saying that the battery is low, so that is pretty fantastic. The joys of having a wireless headset, ladies and gentlemen. So, first of all, her talent. After each basic attack, there is a 30% chance of gaining 1 stack of Scarlet Ferment. Each enemy kill grants 1 extra stack. What is this? Well, it's going to increase her attack and defense by 6%, stacking up to 5 times, right? So a pretty solid increase, especially considering she's a fighter. The extra defense is going to benefit her as well. Basic attack deals 120% damage to up to 5 enemy targets in range. So it's essentially just like an AoE physical attack, right? Which is very strong. A lot of times when we have AoE damage dealers inside Watcher of Realms, they're going to be magic damage dealers. So having that physical attack option is going to be incredibly important. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at her Midnight Requiem. When the hero has 5 stacks of Scarlet Ferment, Each of her attack consumes 2 stacks, dealing 320% AoE damage to up to 10 enemies within 2 tiles and inflicting damage reduction on them, so 30% less damage that they can do to your team, lasting for 5 seconds. This is insane, and look at her ultimate range, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely crazy. And then finally, for the passives or other effects, we have Scarlet Feast. Each basic attack launched by the hero restores 7% HP, and basic attack launched by allies restores 2% HP. Very, very strong passive. And finally, the ultimate, which is kind of what she's known for. She's going to mark one enemy target in range with the highest max HP, inflicting the big version of vulnerability physical damage as well as vulnerability magic damage. So they're just going to straight up take 20% more physical and magic damage. Now, these aren't the biggest versions we have in the game, I believe. I think it goes up to 30%, but even 20% of both of these is insane, lasting for 15 seconds on the 15-second ultimate. If any marked enemy dies, Volka immediately restores 50% HP and gains 2 stacks of her Scarlet Ferment, right? So far, she seems like a very strong, you know, kind of unit that you can just bring in to help you out. But ladies and gentlemen, she is so much more than that, because we haven't talked about the Awakenings and we haven't talked about her damage, which she does a ton of it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Awakenings. A1, which is really debatably one of the most important Awakenings for her. Ally redeployment time minus 25%. Simple as that, right? You have units that are taking 60 seconds to redeploy inside Watcher of Realms. Volka on the team at A1, she's making that 45 seconds. It's insane, right? If you're trying to go through content and if you're trying to do like a inspiration cycle with like a Laurel or something like that, she's going to make that possible. It is fantastic. A2, attack plus 300. A3, she's going to have during the effect of Blood Source, the healing from Scarlet Feast is doubled, right? So she enhances these, which is very, very nice. A4, all damage reduction plus 8%. And then A5 deals 45% extra damage to targets inflicted with debuffs. During the effect of Blood Source, Midnight's Requiem costs only 1 stack of Scarlet Ferment. So she's essentially doubling how much she can use this, which is insane. Excuse me there, just had to take a little sip of the beverage. So she is fantastic, right? You can see how powerful her Awakenings are, and you can see how good her kit is. Now let's go ahead and take a look at her artifact as well. I have her built out inside a plus 16 exclusive artifact, which the duration of Scarlet Ferment becomes permanent, and a chance of gaining it with basic attack increases by 40%. So if we take a look here again, excuse me, this Scarlet Ferment, it's permanent. It doesn't last 20 seconds, right? It stacks up to the 5 times, and it is a permanent effect, which is very, very strong. And then obviously her chance of gaining it increases by 40%, which is very, very strong. Now for gear, here's how I have her built. I have her in Calamity on the left side, which you can kind of see there. And then I have her in Soulbound Arcana on the right-hand side. I do have her very much inside DPS gear, right? So she's got very, very strong gear here. As always, though, I'll kind of walk you guys through how you want to gear here. But for today's video, she has 17,000, almost 18,000 attack. She has 385 on the attack speed, which brings her down to a 1.3 second interval. 89 and 307 on the crit rate and damage, respectively. And then 22.5% on the rage regen. So a very decent build. Now, for left-hand side, she's going to be very strong in any sort of a damage-dealing piece. So you're looking Calamity, you're looking Annihilating Might, you're looking Wicked Vengeance, you're looking Warlord, you're looking any of those. Whirlwind would be fantastic on her as well. In terms of the substats, it's kind of the same thing that you'd be looking for on any DPS unit. So attack bonus, crit rate, crit damage, and attack speed if you can do it. It's very rare that you're going to have perfect stats like this. So instead of attack speed, you could take something like, not a rage regen, but, you know, HP bonus or defense bonus if you can get it, right? Anything that's just going to boost her survivability is going to be very strong. For the chest plate, you're kind of looking for those same things. If you can get a quad roll of attack bonus, crit rate, crit damage, and attack speed, that's perfect. You're going to be looking at the tier 3 gear for that, though, so it's very unlikely that you'll have the attack speed roll possible on this, but any sort of a damage-dealing piece like this, for example, is going to work perfectly fine, right? And especially if it's from any of those sets, it's going to work very well. Now, excuse me, on the right-hand side, I think Soulbound Arcana is going to be her best option. You're really just going to be looking for something that she can use to deal big numbers in terms of damage, so Soulbound Arcana is very strong. Most of her attacks are basic attacks, so you could also get away with Infernal Roar. Of course, Cataclysm, Ageless Wrath, you know, you're really just looking for any of these DPS sets. You could even use a Morale set for her, right? Morale, if you're unfamiliar, is the set that when she's deployed, all allies do 4% bonus damage, right? So if you don't have anybody else inside Morale set and you're not really building her for damage or anything like that, you could run her inside Morale as well. Now, she definitely looks like she should bring Bleed, right? So you might think that running her inside the artifact that increases damage inflicted to Bleed, so the Scarlet Hunt, you might think that'd be good on her. Unfortunately, she doesn't inflict bleed. So if you have her with a bleeder, this could be a very solid way to go. Using the Shattered Hilt on her. In my opinion, Shattered Hilt is one of the strongest artifacts. It's not going to work, though, now that I read that. So it's single target damage. She's all AoE. Disregard that. Don't use Shattered Hilt. That being said, though, Key of the Forsaken would be very strong. Key is fantastic. You could use Realm Tear on her. Frigid Flame would be good too if you're using any sort of like wave-based content for her. Wailing Skull could work if you have her built up with some crazy attack stats, all those sorts of good things. Now, all that being said, let's go ahead and show her off here in all her glory. So we're going to go into Guild Boss 1 here. I don't use her, but this is Nightmare 4. We're going to go ahead and bring her in with a Nightmare Lord as well. So we're going to ditch the Ingrid. We're going to bring her in wherever she might be. I can't find her, apparently. Let's go ahead and filter by fighters here. We're looking for our Volka, who's way harder to spot than she should be, apparently. And then for the Lord, we're going to bring in Torador. So right here. We have Pharisee in here. I think I'm going to take out Aelin, and I'm going to put in somebody like a Elwyn just for some rage regen. The team that I'm showing you right now is essentially just a team that I was using for Abyss 1. I was trying to progress inside there. I seem to be getting some decent damage numbers and whatnot. But let's go ahead and see what Volka and only Volka can do. So we're going to place her down here, right? Start doing some damage. We're then going to place Diao Chan for the inspo. We're going to place Pharisee, and we're going to place Elwyn for, you know, the heals and all those sorts of good things. So something just like that. And then we're going to see what she is capable of. We're probably going to save the ultimate for when the boss pops his shield. Now, as you can see, she's not necessarily a huge DPS unit, right? So she still already has 2 million damage put out. She's also fairly consistently keeping up the damage reduction. Like, it is, you know, it does fall off sometimes, but with the damage reduction up, you could get some viability out of her somewhere like Semra as well. So Guild Boss 2, essentially, right? Because it's very important that you have damage reduction. And if you keep an eye up here, you'll see that it stays up decently consistently. Like, there is a bit of that RNG with it. We're going to go ahead and pop her ult here. So as you can see, we get these physical damage and then magic damage taken in addition to the regular damage that we do. Plus, we have the damage reduction on there. So very, very strong. In this particular build, she's almost going to be able to get through the shield on her own as well, which is pretty crazy, all things considered, right? Like, having her get to 7.6 million damage as a support unit at this point is pretty crazy. And then considering we have the damage minus 30%, we were actually able to tank that hit from the dragon as well. I remember back in the day when I first started this game, you couldn't do that, right? You didn't have the gear or the stats or the ability to do that, but we also had the Pharisee damage reduction, so it's crazy. You can do crazy things inside the guild boss now, certainly. But that's what kind of damage she can do, and that's how useful she is. Now, another place that she is incredibly important, ladies and gentlemen, especially as you get into the late game, is going to be Gear Dungeon 2. If we go in here to Popular Heroes, you're going to see that she's like top 3 most popular heroes out of any hero in the game for this particular stage. And that's even over things like Ardea, Estrid, Valeria, Xena, any sort of hero that you usually use here. Valara is like at the bottom of the list. Volka's within the top 3, right? If we look at the recommended lineups, you're going to see Volka's basically in every single team. Now, the reason for that is multifaceted. So first of all, you have her ability to reduce the redeployment times of all your units. I'll actually go into Gear Dungeon 2 and I'll show you how it works on a couple of stages just so you can kind of get an idea of why she's so important. But you have her ability to reduce the redeployment time of your units. And then on top of that, she can also do a lot of your DPS for the bottom lane as well. So when I'm doing the bottom lane, for this content, I'm essentially putting Valara out, and then I'm putting Volka right behind her. Valara helps a lot with the, obviously with the pushback, but then once Valara, you know, if there's enemies getting past her, we're then depending on Volka to be able to take down those enemies, essentially. So that's something to consider as well. She is very, very strong for this role. I'm not going to play through, you know, the complete run or anything like that, but we'll get far enough just to take out some enemies so you can kind of see how much damage she's going to end up doing, all that sort of good stuff. Valara should come in with her pushback here. There it is. So the Banshee isn't going to do anything to our team, which is nice. But, you know, it's fantastic because if you have enemies that are pushing through as well, so for example, if you're struggling to actually kill the Banshee or something like that, well, first of all, good luck with this stage. But second of all, she can then come in and say, hey, look, like, you know, I'm going to inflict the magic vulnerabilities on you, and she is going to help make it so much easier for you to actually be able to go ahead and clap this content, which is very nice, right? Like, any sort of a hero that can make content significantly easier is always a win in my book. We're going to go ahead and cycle the Wood Elf there just so we can get some regen on the cost so we can get our Torador up. We're going to deploy Valara. We're going to get our Torador up, and then as you can see, we have the enemies coming in. We're going to pop the Volka ult as soon as we're able to, so right about now we should be able to pop it. There we go. So now Volka's going to do big damage, actually, to the enemies. So we're pushing back with Valara. Once they get past Valara, Volka's still going to come in and do some clapping as well. Valara is just so broken for this stage, right? She is fantastic. If you don't have Valara, though, you can still clear this with something like, obviously, an Edith is used here quite a bit. There's also the rare hero whose name I forgot. It's like Brut or something like that. He can do the pushbacks as well. I just realized you can't really see necessarily where they're all placed and the ultimates and stuff like that, but this isn't a Gear Dungeon 2 showcase. This is obviously going to be something a little bit more along the lines of a just a showcase of Volka, right? So something to consider there. We're going to go ahead and quit out. I will show you the damage stats as well, just in case you're curious about that, so you can kind of see who did what there, essentially. Now, obviously, keep in mind on that bottom lane, Valara is going to be a fantastic unit, but, you know, Valara, an ancient exclusive legendary hero who was just introduced to the game, or Volka, a legendary hero that literally every single person in the game can get, Volka ends up doing well over 1 million damage more. Ladies and gentlemen, if this doesn't show you just how damn good Volka is and why she's a must build for everybody on the game, right? On your account, regardless of what stage of the game you're at, I don't know what will show you that, right? She's so good. So good. Now, she is obviously A5. My Valara is A0, but keep in mind that everybody gets the A5. Not everybody's going to get Valara, right? So something to consider there as well. Let's go ahead and give her some ratings. So Gear Dungeon 2, absolutely a 5, I agree. Void Rift, she's also going to be a 5. Gear Dungeon 1, she doesn't have as much use inside Gear Dungeon 1. You're primarily looking for, you know, magic DPS units. She could still be good to have in your team just to help out with the redeploys, but I'm going to give her a 4 there. Titanic Runes, absolutely a 5. She's bringing so much for your team. Artifact Material Raid, same thing. Immortal Codex, same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Faction Trial, same thing. Gear Raid 2, you already know it. She's a 5. I don't know why people are giving her less than 5. Tide, she's also a 5. Guild War, she's probably going to be a 4. She does fall off a little bit in later game Guild Wars once, you know, people start to know how to beat Guild Wars a little bit more. EXP Raid, for the raids, I'm going to give her a 3. She does do AoE damage, but she doesn't necessarily do it quick enough to really help you out there. Drake's Chasm, absolutely a 5. Arena, single target, a 5. Gear Raid 1, I'm going to give her a 4. She can inflict those vulnerabilities on the boss once he pushes up. Arena, AoE DPS, definitely a 3, right? She's not really used there. Gear Raid 3, she's probably going to be a 3. The one thing to consider with Gear Raid 3 is obviously she'll reduce the cooldown times of your redeployments, which is so crucial if you're cycling any sort of units, especially on the right-hand side, or if you're needing to cycle somebody on the lower portion. And then the other part of that as well is that she can actually be placed as a ground unit in the middle to tank the hits from the boss, and she does have obviously a lot of sustain in her kit, so that's fantastic as well. Arena, anti-air DPS, definitely a 2. she's not really useful there, right? So that being said, this is my guide in 2025 to Volka and why I'm making the case that everybody should build her. Not only that, last thing I'll mention real quick too, Acheron's Arsenal, right? Stage 7. I wasn't able to beat this without Volka. Flat out. Volka helped to carry me through this content. So my Volka, she initially gets placed down here to fight the enemy that spawns here. So she gets like placed like here or something like that. And then I actually transition and place her up here facing to the right, so that when the summoners come out and come around, she can actually take out their air-based summons as well. She's so useful. She is an incredible hero. An incredible hero. I could sit here all day and talk about her, but I'm not going to. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Of course, there is also a Discord linked if you want to hop in there. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.